Welcome to Lifestyle Solopreneur, the community for entrepreneurs who put lifestyle first. Join your host, Flavia Barris, as she interviews successful lifestyle solopreneurs and shares ideas to help you find the perfect balance between lifestyle, business, and self. Flavia is an attorney, marketing expert, and founder of several online academies. She's been featured in major media, including BBC World News, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Post, ESPN Television, and more. Join us for this episode of Lifestyle Solopreneur.
Hey, Lifestyle Solopreneurs. Today we're chatting with Drew Boyer. He's an experienced financial expert and a certified financial planner with over 2 decades of experience helping individuals and families navigate their financial journeys. He was raised in Ohio, and his upbringing shaped his values of hard work, financial responsibility, and entrepreneurship, lessons that he now imparts to his clients and readers alike. He's a passionate advocate for financial literacy. He blends his expertise in personal finance with his deep love for hip-hop culture, using the lessons learned from both to educate and inspire. From witnessing the rise of hip-hop in the golden age to overcoming his own financial struggles, Drew's life story mirrors many of the triumphs and pitfalls found in both the financial world and the music industry. He is the author of the new book, Hip Hop X Finance. Welcome to the show, Drew.
Hey, thanks for having me on today, Flavia. Good to be here.
Yeah, I call them slashies. I'm a slashie. Like, I'm a lawyer / broker / author, all the slashies. So you're that. I mean, because people wouldn't necessarily think, oh, yeah, if you come from the world of music, obviously you'd go into financial planning, but you've sort of bridged that world from one to the other. Tell us a little bit about how you got where you are today.
Yeah, so it's something that's not usually brought together, but like most people, when I was younger, I want to say 6th grade, somebody put a pair of drumsticks in a hyperactive little boy's hands, and it was me. And I was able to sit down at a drum set, and it just clicked. I was able to play, and then I got better as time went by. So my journey started as becoming a musician and a drummer, and just having a love of music. And it might be the math behind it. When I'm drumming, there's 4/4 tempos, there's 3/4. So math has always kind of been there. And that's the tie that binds, finance and music. But mine started with playing drums. I played all through high school, went through college, and eventually there came a day when I had to grow up and get a real job. And so one of the things that I enjoyed early on about the same time I started playing drums, is I would collect baseball cards. And my brothers and I would save up chore money. We would go buy baseball cards. And inevitably, before we got home, in the back of the car, we were trading already. And I might have been ending up on the better end of a lot of trades. So the whole idea of making investments and getting a return, that always kind of spoke to me. Fast forward to college, I did an internship at Merrill Lynch. And I'd worked for a very strong lead female around the end of the tech bubble bursting at the end of 2000, 2001. And she had a beautiful corner office. She was living the life. And then you have this calamity happen in the stock market. And I learned how to give personal advice and following up with them every single week and keeping in contact with people. And that really spoke to me that, hey, it looks like a really good lifestyle, but when things don't go right, you need to be able to get in contact and reach out. And so that really got my beak wet as far as finding a career. Get out of college, started looking around for some financial advisor gigs to get started. And I found a small place that I got started with. I go about 2 decades later, I'm sitting here now. I'm fully independent. I've been independent pretty much the entire time. And I have a passion for not only entertaining clients and using what I learned in music, but also educating. And in the world of finance, just like in law, there's lots of acronyms. And it seems like this different code language that people have to learn to be able to understand. And so 20 plus years in, I'm trying to find a way to be able to give back and make it easy and accessible, and just try to open the door a little bit up and spread the knowledge around that I've learned on my journey. And so that was the idea and the genesis of the book, is to take something that's so public, like music that we all share, in this case, the genre of hip hop, and talk about money that's personal and private, and share my own private, journey getting here, getting out of debt and starting a business, all those things that entrepreneurs have to learn. And then once you get a business going, it's having a budget and saving and doing taxes and all those fun things. So that's what the book is about in a nutshell, and that's my journey till here.
And so, why do you think that money is such a private topic? And I don't debate you. It is. I do agree. It is something people don't generally talk about, and even within families. So you would think like, well, yeah, I mean, maybe not in public, but you still discuss it with all your loved ones. But no, that's not even the case. And I know that for a fact. A lot of times money's a taboo subject, even among siblings and parents and their kids. And there's a lot that sort of goes sideways when people aren't sort of open. I work in law, so for me, I've even seen in estate planning where someone passes away and that next generation or whoever the beneficiaries are had no idea even what that person's finances look like or what their beliefs were and what they wanted done with their wealth when they passed. And it's a very interesting taboo subject. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, so I think for me growing up, my parents always taught me how to work hard and to be an entrepreneur. But, I would hear things that they would talk about at night after me and my brothers went upstairs. So there wasn't a lot of openness about talking about money. I think that if you're in debt, and I'll take it from myself, I'd been in $100,000 of debt. There's this negative emotion of shame. I don't want to share that with anybody that, hey, I've got a noose around my neck of debt and I don't know how to get out of it. And I was feeling that emotion of shame. And, sitting here today, I mean, I have assets and I've done everything I've told my clients to do. And so I'm sitting in a completely polar opposite position now. And I think if you aren't talking to the right people, and I think this is like a Drake quote, he's like, be careful who you talk about your dreams with. If they're not on the same level as you, it sounds like you're bragging. And so I think people tend to hold back on money if you're in debt because you don't want to feel the shame. Or if you have something, it might sound coming across as bragging if you talk about that with others. And that's genuinely what I felt from people coming in the office. And, we're very just like with attorney-client privilege, like the conversations that we have in my office with my clients, it's confidential and we don't bring it out. But I've always encouraged everybody to open up and talk to their family. And, from starting out education accounts with their kids, I very much make sure that my daughters know what we're saving per month and they can see when it goes up and down. And I'm trying to take them on this journey of being more open and honest with them and just sharing so we can normalize that.
And I mean, what you're doing is so useful, I think, just in society, especially young people too. Back in the day, this is like prior to social media and what we have today. But I think back in the day, if you wanted to learn about finance and it wasn't something you were learning in school, and I don't think they really taught that in high schools or even colleges unless you specifically picked the right electives. I think it was hard. You'd have to maybe take a class or go to the library or purchase a book at, a bookstore to like dive deep and try to learn finance, or you could hire a financial planner. But I think there wasn't that option of just going on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram and watching little snippets of reels that might just draw you in and get you interested in this topic. But I think today we have great people out there, they're influencers, and a lot of them are just sharing these little 20, 30-second snippets about finances and just kind of getting that interest going so that people, especially younger generation, knows there's this world out there of like thinking about money and finances and planning and even looking towards retirement, which is something that maybe was harder to find yourself interested in if your only option was to take a class or hire someone or read a book.
Absolutely. I've had lots of good conversations about how did you learn about finance? And maybe you were lucky enough to have a parent or a relative, or for me, with one of my very first jobs at a grocery store that I worked for this Italian fella, and he imparted some basic wisdom upon me. And so I was curious enough to ask questions. So I would tell others to do the same. I would say with the rise of social media, a lot of the people that are on, TikTok, we're living in the age of too much information now. And a lot of people on there probably is decent advice. But if you go and check to see if any of them are actually financially licensed or they claiming they're an expert, if they say they're an expert, they definitely do not have any licenses, because I can't even say that sitting here as a certified financial planner. I'm not allowed to say expert. I have expertise. So I'm sure there's not that many ill-advised people out there, but always to do your homework and check it out. There is plenty of advice and information being thrown around. a simple thing. If you go check out somebody, you can look up FINRA broker check, FINRA broker check. And you just want to make sure that whoever you're getting advice from, that they've actually know what they're talking about. And that's a great place to start to see if they're not trying to sell you something or anything like that. So there's lots of information out there. Check to see if they're an actual advisor or not, and check out their information. I'm raising my daughters the same way, where even if I tell them to fact check me, right? Like sometimes I misspeak, sometimes others do. Be careful what you're getting just from social media, but it is another great resource to look into.
And so one of the first sort of celebrity financial people out there was like the Dave Ramseys of the world, right? So they're out there making finance more accessible and then just kind of putting out their philosophy. But a lot of people are kind of against what he's teaching. So it became very, I think, polarizing and also almost controversial, right? Like, oh, do you believe in that or do you not? Or is he giving good advice? Is he giving terrible advice? So I agree. You have to take it all with a grain of salt. I'm just glad that having these topics out there is starting the conversation. And one area where I see what's really interesting is there's people that even get married and have never discussed finances at all with their soon-to-be spouse. Or, and that should be kind of up there, right? Like, what's your spending style? Like, how, do you believe, what are you trying to save for? Should we save for that together once we're married? All these conversations. So when people come into your office and they're maybe new to financial planner, you're the first person they've come to for financial planning advice. What are some of the common things that you see that people come to you with as sort of their struggles, their challenges, maybe where they went wrong or didn't take some action they should have taken? And where do you kind of help correct those kind of beginning phases to get them to a good place where they can go from there and really grow and plan correctly?
Yeah, great question. So I'd probably break this down by life stages of who comes in. If I have a younger couple or younger person that's just gotten out of college or been working for the first 5 years, had a great job, they maybe got a raise, maybe got a bonus. A lot of people at the beginning cycle of or beginning of their journey, they might have debts. You might have student loan debt. It might be a lot, it might be a little bit, maybe their parents helped you or not. But a lot of that is, how do we get rid of this as fast as possible? It feels like a noose around their neck a lot of times. They also have similar needs for, do I buy a car? Am I saving for a wedding? And then, one of the biggest hot button topics is housing right now. How do I save up to get into a home when the prices have only gone up for the last few years and interest rates are now up? Most people would think they're very high now at 6 or 7%. That's actually pretty for the long-term average, right where it's always been. And so a lot of it's doing work on saving ahead and where do you put your money at in there. So we would discuss something like, an online savings account where you can make some interest on your money. People more mid-career, they're starting to be able to start having children. So I get questions about, how do we save ahead for college and anything else like that. Later on, when you're looking to retire, it's mainly looking at what you have. Are you aggressively invested? And if you need the money sooner than later, how do you invest this? And how's it supposed to last for your whole life? Estate planning. What happens, all these private things that no one wants to talk about, like who do I leave the money to? Health insurance is a big one that's been coming up. I work with a lot of clients that are able to retire out in their mid 50s. So they have about 10 years or a full decade before they're Medicare eligible. And they might have their house paid off at that point, but their new health insurance they've got to get is basically the cost of a mortgage. I've easily seen it be $2,000 to $2,500 a month. And so that becomes a whole nother thing to plan for. So it all depends on the person when they're coming in. I've always liked to take my creative background and I use that creatively to tailor a solution for a plan for everyone. The debt thing is always out there. I've been surprised that people almost of all ages have come in and they're like, yeah, I got a mortgage and there's a car debt. And oh, yeah, I got $40,000 in credit cards. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm not sure how that happens later on in life. It seems like a problem I had early. But if you have any kind of high interest rate credit card debt, you have to learn, hopefully earlier on, that's you're never going to get that paid off. And so that's always been a big one, no matter what age coming in. I've just been shocked at some people that are older that don't know any better with that.
I know there's so much too. I mean, there's so many areas of life that I think the Venn diagram, right? Where you have all the circles and they intersect. I mean, financial planning, it's not just about where do I invest my money? It's not like, okay, which stocks do I buy? That's not it at all. I mean, it's holistic. Like you're saying, you're even looking at things like health insurance and estate planning and kids' college and all these upcoming expenses and at the age and what your lifestyle is going to be when you retire. And I just wish so many more people who are in their 20s and 30s would spend some time to sort of set some of this up, because I think the number one asset you have when you're young is time. It's like really hard to make mistakes when you have that much horizon ahead of you. I mean, hopefully, right? None of us know exactly how many grains of sand there are in the hourglass, but generally, right? If you start in your 20s, imagine, when people come to you and they're 25, how much more you can do for them than when they come to you and they're already 60, already kind of in that retirement horizon. So I love what you're working on. How does hip hop play in? Because the name of your book is Hip Hop X Finance. So hip hop's front and center there with the finance. And most people would not put those two together as like a logical combination. So where's that intersection? How does that work together?
Yeah, so I set out, number one, to make a finance book like none other before. And a lot of this is, make money now or how to retire, and these things that as a financial planner, I feel pretty bored by if I read the title. So I wanted to do something that brought again something like with music. And I know that we live inside a celebrity obsessed culture. And I'm a fan of all kinds of different music. I do love hip hop though. And I was trying to think back about what style or what genre of music should I be talking about if I do this. And hip hop is one of those things that as a young, impressionable 18-year-old, you saw these big flashy late 1990s music videos where they have gold everything and dollar bills and girls and cars. And as a young, impressionable male, that really spoke to me. And it's more the ambition and I'm going to do this by all means necessary. The genre is also unfortunately stacked with people that made bad decisions because of lack of education, like financial education. And certain amount, like a lot of celebrities are surrounded by just yes people. So I wanted to bring in and we dissect everybody from like MC Hammer to Kanye to 50 Cent, Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, all these guys and their stories behind the music. It's the money stories behind the music. And there's some fascinating details about things that went really wrong and happened very quick. And there's other guys that did it really right and they built things up over a long period of time. And I think hip hop is usually in your face about the right now, right here. But the guys that actually make it and the women that makes it long term, it's something that they build up over a long period of time. And patience is the number one thing I think that everybody can take from the book. Easy come, easy go. You need to have the right team around you. And some people are going to say no to you. Like if you have a financial planner or an attorney or a CPA, it's having the right team around you, build that up, and you can really make a big difference there. And so I'm looking at, MC Hammer going bankrupt in 3 years. He made $72 million. By the time he went to bankruptcy court, he owed 82 million. So he spent so fast and so furiously that he's overspent by $10 million in just 3 years. That'll happen though if you buy gold toilets and statues of yourself. Not the best investments. And all the way to one of the best investment stories, what was the biggest hip hop product to date? Beats by Dre. And that's a fascinating story. The genesis of it starts back in 99 when you had Napster and music started getting stolen for free and we were all sharing it. I was part of that problem, but the music industry was in a tailspin. For a few years, Apple comes out with the iPod, which not many people really remember, but a music device where you could buy songs for 99 cents. But they only gave you these little cheap $1 pair of earbuds. And so Dre's on the record saying it's bad enough they're stealing my music. Now you don't even get the feel of it. And so he comes up with a solution to that problem of doing hardware and making speakers, which he very much knows that whole game. And it's a fascinating story about when it starts to all the way to the ending, when he's basically made a billionaire selling it all out to Apple eventually at the very end. And so I love going through all these different chapters and different dissections of financial planning, budgeting. The funniest chapter title that I've got, and I call the chapters tracks. It's going over things that people usually fall asleep on in my office, where you're talking about taxes and insurance and legal stuff. And the chapter title of that one is Back Your Assets Up. I'm trying to really make this an engaging conversation where you're like, wait, what? And keeping people engaged and learning in a fun way.
Well, I can't wait to read that book. Hip Hop X Finance. Sounds great. So give us some parting words of wisdom today. There's people listening who are well on their way, having a very healthy relationship with money and with financial planning. And some of us listening too are thinking, oh my goodness, I'm so behind. There's catch up and research I need to do. I really need to get a coach. I need to speak to someone. So what parting words of wisdom would you give to get people off their sofa or chair or wherever they are and on the phone or online to just get a handle on their finances, connect with someone if they need to? There's people like you who are licensed and professionals in this industry that help people every day make good decisions about finances and develop strategy. And there's also tons out there, books like yours and other places, just to get educated as a first step. If someone is sitting at home thinking, I've never even really thought about it, and I've just been kind of cruising down this river without really realizing that I can actually steer this raft. So tell us, what do they need to hear?
Nike has a good quote, like, just do it. I would say just get started. I also would tell you to tune out the noise. We're living in a culture where with social media, where you're constantly comparing yourself to what somebody else has, and everybody's putting up their best picture of their vacation or the car that is by their house. The only person you should compare yourself to is yourself a year ago, if you need a guidepost. If you're in a hole, stop digging. It's a great Warren Buffett quote that's in the book. You have to get started. You want to stay curious. Go out and look for information that speaks to you. Just like you said with Dave Ramsey versus maybe Robert Kiyosaki that wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Find something that speaks to you that makes sense. And just stay curious and start learning. And if you know that you're if you're making a mistake and running up debt, you have the choice to stop that. Just like you don't have to go spend to pretend. So just getting started, writing out a plan. There's nothing more valuable than writing it out. There's some big stats there that if you write out something just for you doing it, it holds you to it. And build a team as you can. There's a lot of good financial advisors out there that will work with anybody that's just getting started out, even not just somebody that's at the end of their career. I tend to help all of my clients, sons and daughters. I love getting them open up like a Roth IRA for them. But it's just saving a little bit over a long period of time, and know that it's not going to come fast. Everything good takes time. And like you said earlier in there, when you're young, time's your best friend, even though you don't know how much you have. Just getting started and saving in your 20s will make an immense difference than somebody that just starts in their 40s.
Amazing. Drew, it's been so great having you on. I love talking about money. I love talking about finances in this way that's just educational and inspiring for others. Thank you for all that you do out there, and wishing you the best of luck with your new book, Hip Hop X Finance.
Hey, thank you so much, Flavia.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, and if you leave a review on iTunes, I promise I will read every single review. If you know someone who makes a full-time living from part-time work, and maybe this is you, please visit lifestylesolopreneur.com to nominate a guest or to nominate yourself. Because remember this, money doesn't buy happiness. But money in the hands of a happy person, there is no greater tool.
Today's episode was brought to you by the Get Shift Done program. It's a lifestyle-changing online class to help you define your business and lifestyle ambitions, and to set goals in a way you've never experienced before. This class will 10x your daily productivity with methods that will blow your mind. And if you use a coupon code podcast, the class tuition is 99% off. Visit GetShiftDone.com to enroll today.